The stars had never seemed so close until the day they arrived. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the window of the International Space Station, watching the massive alien ships appear in Earth's orbit like silver dreams made real. The 12 vessels hung motionless against the black void, each one different from the others. Some looked like flowing water frozen in space, others like crystalline structures that caught and bent starlight in impossible ways. "This changes everything," whispered Commander James Park, floating beside her. His voice carried the same mixture of wonder and fear that had gripped the entire world since the first transmission arrived 3 days ago. The message had been simple, broadcast in perfect English and every other human language simultaneously. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome you into the greater community of intelligent life." Elena pressed her hand against the cool glass. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent her entire career dreaming of this moment. But something felt wrong. The ships were too perfect, too clean. In all her studies of alien life possibilities, she had imagined vessels showing wear, from long journeys between stars, ships that bore the marks of different worlds and different needs. These looked like they had been built yesterday. Down on Earth, crowds gathered in every major city. Television screens showed the same images, over and over, the alien fleet hanging peacefully above their world. Presidents and prime ministers gave speeches about humanity's greatest day. Religious leaders debated what this meant for their faiths. Scientists around the world worked frantically to understand the technology that had brought visitors from the stars. High Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth through sensors that could count individual humans from orbit. His tall, thin frame cast a long shadow across the command center. His skin had the pale blue color of his people, and his large black eyes showed no emotion as he studied the primitive world below. "The humans are responding exactly as predicted," reported Subcommander Krell, her tentacles dancing over the control surfaces. She belonged to the Hectari species, masters of biological manipulation. "Their leaders are eager to meet with us. They believe they are about to join a peaceful alliance of equals." Vextar's mouth curved in what humans might have mistaken for a smile. "Excellent. Begin Phase 2 of the containment protocol. Send the cultural exchange teams to their major cities. Make sure they understand how honored they should feel to receive our guidance." The plan had been years in the making. When the Council's long-range scouts first detected human radio signals, most species had dismissed Earth as another primitive world that would take thousands of years to develop space travel. But the Zephyrians had studied human history more carefully. They saw how quickly humans moved from horse-drawn carriages to flying machines, from simple computers to artificial intelligence. The rate of human advancement was alarming. "They are dangerous," Vextar had argued before the full council. "In just 100 years they have gone from not being able to fly to landing on their moon. Their weapons grow more powerful each decade. Their population explodes across their planet like a virus. If we do not act now, they will spread across the galaxy like wildfire." Some council species had disagreed. The peaceful Cathani suggested simply monitoring humanity from a distance. The ancient Valdorians proposed making honest contact and seeing if humans could be trusted partners. But fear won the debate. Fear of human unpredictability, human violence, human ambition. So they had crafted the perfect trap. They would pose as benevolent teachers, offering humanity just enough advanced technology to make them dependent, but never enough to truly advance. They would study human science and subtly guide it away from breakthrough discoveries. They would monitor every human leader, every military installation, every research facility, and humanity would thank them for it. The first shuttle landed in New York City exactly at noon. Elena watched the live broadcast from the space station, noting how the alien vessel touched down with impossible grace. No rockets, no visible propulsion system. The ship simply descended as if gravity had decided to work differently for it. The beings that emerged looked surprisingly humanoid. Chancellor Vextar stood nearly 7 feet tall, his robes flowing around him like liquid starlight. Behind him came representatives of other species, the tentacled Hectari, the crystal-bodied silicants, the gas cloud entities called nebulons contained in mechanical suits. They all looked wise, ancient, and peaceful. President Martinez stepped forward to greet them, flanked by scientists and diplomats from around the world. The ceremony was broadcast to billions of watching humans. Children would remember this day for the rest of their lives. "People of Earth," Vextar said, his voice somehow speaking every language at once through advanced translation technology. "We have watched your species grow and develop. You have shown great promise, great creativity. The Galactic Council has voted to offer you membership in our alliance of peaceful worlds." The crowd erupted in cheers. Elena found herself clapping along with everyone else, caught up in the moment despite her growing unease. She activated her tablet and began taking notes, documenting everything she observed about the aliens' technology and behavior. Over the following weeks, alien visitors spread across Earth. They established cultural centers in every major city, offering to share their knowledge of art, science, and philosophy. Human scientists lined up to learn from beings who had traveled between stars. Military leaders were shown defensive technologies that could protect Earth from any possible threat. Politicians received guidance on governing large populations across multiple worlds. Elena was selected as part of the first scientific exchange program. She found herself aboard a Zephyrian vessel, studying alien biological samples and learning about life on other worlds. The technology around her was breathtaking. Walls that displayed any environment at will, machines that could heal injuries in minutes, computers that responded to thought alone. But the more she learned, the more questions arose. The alien technologies seemed deliberately simplified, as if someone had taken advanced systems and made them less efficient. When she asked about certain scientific principles, her Zephyrian teachers would change the subject or claim that humans were not ready for such knowledge. She began keeping a private journal, documenting every inconsistency she noticed. The aliens claimed their faster-than-light travel worked by folding space, but the mathematics they shared made no sense. They showed her medical devices that could cure diseases, but when she asked to examine the underlying biology, she was told it was too complex for human understanding. Most disturbing was what she observed about alien behavior. When they thought no humans were watching, the aliens would communicate in rapid, untranslatable bursts that seemed urgent and secretive. She caught glimpses of displays showing detailed maps of human cities, military bases, and research facilities. Late one night, as Earth spun below the alien ship, Elena made a decision that would change everything. She began secretly recording her observations, building a hidden database of every suspicious detail. She started reaching out to other human scientists, through encrypted channels asking if they had noticed anything strange. The responses that came back confirmed her worst fears. Around the world, human researchers were reporting the same problems: technologies that didn't work as promised, research that led nowhere, and alien teachers who seemed more interested in limiting human knowledge than expanding it. The stars no longer seemed beautiful to Elena. They seemed cold and threatening, hiding secrets that the so-called Council of Peace didn't want humanity to discover. But humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had explored every continent on their world and reached for the moon itself. If the aliens thought they could cage humanity with pretty lies and false friendship, they were about to learn they had seriously underestimated what humans could do when they realized they were being deceived. The game was just beginning, and the Council had no idea what they had started. 5 years had passed since first contact, and Earth looked very different now. Alien technology glittered in every major city. Sleek transport pods moved people through tube networks that the Zephyrians had helped build. Medical centers used Hectari healing devices that could mend broken bones in hours. Communication networks operated on silicon crystal arrays that made the old internet seem like smoke signals. To most humans, it seemed like paradise. Disease was becoming rare. Hunger was ending as alien agricultural techniques produced more food than ever before. Wars had practically stopped as the Council's peacekeeping technologies made conflict seem pointless. World leaders praised the wisdom of their alien mentors and spoke of humanity's bright future among the stars. But Dr. Elena Vasquez knew better. She stood in her hidden laboratory beneath the University of Mexico City, studying readouts that would have shocked the world if anyone else could see them. The lab officially didn't exist. As far as university records showed, this basement level was used for storage. Elena had spent 3 years carefully building this secret research facility, using equipment that she had assembled piece by piece from supposedly broken alien devices. "The power output is impossible," muttered Marcus Chen, examining a dismantled Zephyrian energy cell. The Chinese engineer had joined Elena's underground network 2 years ago when he noticed that human fusion research had mysteriously stalled just as they were about to achieve breakthrough results. "According to everything the Council taught us, this should produce maybe 10% of what we're measuring." Elena nodded grimly as she updated her encrypted files. "They've been lying to us from the beginning. This energy cell uses principles that they claim are beyond human understanding. But look at these quantum readings. It's actually simpler than what our own scientists were developing before the aliens arrived." Around the hidden lab, a dozen other scientists worked quietly, at similar tasks. Dr. Yuki Tanaka analyzed hectare biological samples that officially didn't exist. Professor Samuel Wright reverse-engineered silicon computing systems using mathematics that the aliens had declared too advanced for human minds. Dr. Amara Okafor studied gravitational effects from alien ships, documenting propulsion methods that violated every physics principle the Council had shared with humanity. They called themselves the Underground Science Network, though they never used that name in any communication that could be intercepted. Elena had recruited each member carefully, choosing scientists who had noticed the same inconsistencies she had observed. They worked in complete secrecy, knowing that discovery would mean the end of their careers, or worse. "I've got the monthly reports from our contacts in other cities," announced Dr. David Kim, looking up from his encrypted communication terminal. The Korean physicist coordinated with similar secret groups that had formed in London, Moscow, Tokyo, and Sao Paulo. "The pattern is the same everywhere. Human research projects get mysteriously redirected just before major breakthroughs. Equipment malfunctions at crucial moments. Key researchers get offered prestigious positions on alien ships, removing them from their work." Elena felt a familiar anger building in her chest. The Council's manipulation was so elegant, so subtle. They had convinced humanity's leaders that rapid advancement would be dangerous, that humans needed to develop slowly under alien guidance. Meanwhile, they systematically sabotaged any research that might lead to true independence. "What about Morrison's data?" asked Marcus, referring to General Sarah Morrison of the United States Strategic Command. The military officer had been feeding them information about alien ship movements and military technology assessments. "She's discovered something big," Elena replied, pulling up a heavily encrypted file. "The Council ships aren't just monitoring us. They're actively scanning our military installations, mapping our defensive capabilities, and tracking the movement of key personnel. This isn't the behavior of peaceful mentors. This is the behavior of occupiers." The evidence was overwhelming, but it was also useless. Who could they tell? Earth's governments were completely convinced of the Council's benevolence. The media praised alien wisdom daily. Even suggesting that the Council might have ulterior motives would be dismissed as paranoid conspiracy thinking. Meanwhile, High Chancellor Vextar observed Earth from his flagship with growing satisfaction. His plan was working perfectly. Human technological advancement had slowed to a crawl. Their scientists were dependent on Council guidance for every major project. Their military posed no threat to even the smallest Council vessel. Most importantly, humanity seemed grateful for their situation. "The humans continue to accept our limitations enthusiastically," reported Subcommander Krell during their weekly briefing. "Their leaders regularly request permission before beginning new research projects. They've internalized our guidance so completely that they're now policing themselves." Vexitar allowed himself a moment of pride. Other Council species had suggested simpler approaches: direct conquest, economic manipulation, or even biological warfare. But those methods created martyrs and resistance movements. His approach had been far more sophisticated. He had made humans complicit in their own containment. "What about the few who ask uncomfortable questions?" asked Commander Thys, the Valdorian. military liaison. His crystal body pulsed with concern. Our surveillance networks have detected small groups of scientists conducting unauthorized research. A few malcontents, Vextar dismissed with a wave of his hand. Every population has individuals who resist progress. They pose no real threat. Their own governments will silence them if they become too troublesome. But Vextar was wrong about the scale of human curiosity. Elena's network was just one of many that had formed across the globe. In hidden laboratories and secret research facilities, human scientists were slowly unraveling the truth about alien technology. They worked in isolation, each group believing they were alone in their suspicions. But they were all driven by the same fundamental human trait, the refusal to accept simple answers to complex questions. General Morrison sat in her secure office deep beneath the Pentagon, studying intelligence reports that painted a disturbing picture. Alien ships appeared and disappeared from Earth's orbit with no explanation. Council cultural centers in major cities contained equipment that was clearly designed for surveillance, not education. Most troubling, several key human scientists and military personnel had simply vanished after being invited to extended stays on alien vessels. She had been quietly building her own network of military contacts who shared her concerns. Officers who noticed that their defensive preparations were being observed a little too closely. Intelligence analysts who found their classified systems being accessed by sources they couldn't trace. Soldiers who reported strange equipment appearing in supposedly secure facilities. The pieces were coming together to form a picture that terrified her. Humanity wasn't being welcomed into a galactic community. They were being studied, controlled, and prepared for something. The question was whether they could figure out what before it was too late. In her hidden lab, Elena made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying a damaged council communication device that Marcus had salvaged from a maintenance accident at one of their cultural centers. After months of careful analysis, she had finally cracked its encryption protocols. The messages she found made her blood run cold. Containment phase proceeding as planned, read one transmission. Human technological development successfully limited to approved parameters. Military capabilities assessed and deemed negligible. Population growth monitored and controlled through medical intervention protocols. Another message was even worse. Recommend advancing to Phase 3 within 18 months. Human resources should be ready for harvesting by then. Initial biological compatibility tests showing promising results. Elena's hands shook as she forwarded the encrypted files to every member of their network. Whatever the Council's ultimate plan for humanity, it wasn't the peaceful coexistence they had promised. It was something far more sinister. But the aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that human compliance meant human surrender. They had confused gratitude with weakness, cooperation with defeat. They had forgotten that humans were the species that had survived ice ages, built civilizations from nothing, and reached for the stars with primitive rockets. The Council had successfully deceived humanity, but they were about to learn that deceiving humans and defeating them were very different things. The cage they had built was strong, but they had underestimated the determination of the creatures trapped inside. Elena began composing a message that would go out to every contact in their network, every hidden lab, every secret research facility around the world. It was time for humanity to stop being grateful and start being human again. Elena's message spread through the underground network like fire through dry grass. Within hours, scientists across 6 continents were reading the intercepted Council communications. Within days, every hidden research facility on Earth had copies of the evidence. Within weeks, the truth was impossible to ignore. "We've been living in a cage," Dr. Marcus Chen said quietly as he stared at the decoded messages displayed on Elena's hidden terminal. A very comfortable, very sophisticated cage. The laboratory beneath Mexico City had become the unofficial headquarters of what was now called the Resistance Network. Elena looked around at the faces of scientists who had flown in from around the world using cover stories about academic conferences and research collaborations. Dr. Tanaka from Tokyo, Professor Wright from Cambridge, Dr. Okafor from Lagos, Dr. Kim from Seoul. All of them had arrived in the past week, drawn by the undeniable evidence of council deception. "The biological compatibility tests are what worry me most," said Dr. Tanaka, her voice tight with concern. She had been analyzing the medical data that the council had been secretly collecting from every human who visited their cultural centers. "They're not just studying our technology and our military, they're studying us, our genetics, our cellular structure, our biochemistry." Elena nodded grimly. "The question is why? What do they need to know about human biology?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Jennings, a biochemist from the European Space Agency, had been studying tissue samples that she had secretly collected from alien medical devices. Her findings sent a chill through the assembled scientists. "The council species aren't naturally compatible with each other," she explained, projecting her data onto the lab's main screen. "Their biochemistries are so different that they should never have been able to form an alliance at all. But these medical readings show something incredible. They've been using biological adapters, artificial symbiotes that allow different species to share resources and even genetic material." The implications hit everyone at once. Marcus spoke what they were all thinking. "They're planning to use us as some kind of universal biological interface." While the scientists grappled with these horrifying discoveries, the council began to notice that something was wrong. Their surveillance networks detected unusual communication patterns between human research facilities. Energy readings from various locations suggested unauthorized experiments with advanced technology. Most concerning, several of their monitoring devices had mysteriously malfunctioned or disappeared. High Chancellor Vextar stood before the full council assembly, his usual confidence shaken by the reports he had been receiving. The great chamber aboard the council flagship contained representatives of all 12 species, their various forms creating a bizarre landscape of tentacles, crystals, gas clouds, and stranger shapes. "The human containment protocols may have been compromised," he admitted reluctantly. "We're detecting organized resistance activities across multiple continents. It appears that some humans have discovered fragments of our communications." The reaction was immediate and chaotic. The crystalline Valdorians pulsed with alarm colors. The gaseous nebulans swirled frantically in their containment suits. The tentacled Hectari writhed with agitation. But it was Zara of the Cathani who spoke first, her humanoid form rising gracefully from her seat. The Cathani were the youngest species in the council, barely 500 years into space travel. They had joined the alliance only recently, drawn by promises of peaceful cooperation and shared knowledge. "Perhaps," Zara said carefully, "this is happening because we have not been entirely honest with the humans. They are an intelligent species. Did we really expect them to never notice the inconsistencies in what we have told them?" Vextar's black eyes fixed on her with cold anger. "Are you questioning the wisdom of the containment protocols, Cathani?" "I am questioning the morality of them," Zara replied, her voice steady despite the tension in the chamber. "We told them. We came in peace. We promised them membership in our alliance. Instead, we have lied to them, spied on them, and limited their development. How is this different from conquest?" "Because conquest would have required us to kill billions," snapped Commander Thys of the Valdorians. "This way, they live comfortable, lives under our guidance, they should be grateful." But Zara's words had planted seeds of doubt in other council members. The peaceful Etherians, who communicated through complex light patterns, began flickering with uncertainty. Even some of the militant Zephyrians looked uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Back on Earth, Elena's network made their first major breakthrough. Dr. Chen had successfully reverse-engineered a council energy cell and discovered something remarkable. It was based on principles that human scientists had actually discovered first. The aliens had simply taken human theoretical physics, advanced it by a few steps, and then fed it back to humanity, as if it were alien knowledge. "Look at these quantum equations," Chen explained excitedly to the assembled researchers. "This is basically an extension of work that Dr. Petrov was doing in Moscow before the council arrived. They took his research, perfected it, and then convinced us that we weren't smart enough to understand it." Elena felt a surge of anger mixed with hope. "They didn't just limit our technology, they stole it. They've been using our own discoveries against us. But their breakthrough came with a price. General Morrison's intelligence network detected increased council surveillance in the wake of their successful reverse engineering. Alien ships began appearing more frequently over major cities. Council cultural centers started implementing new security measures. Most ominously, several scientists from Elena's network simply disappeared. Dr. Wright vanished from his hotel in London after presenting a paper on quantum mechanics. Dr. Okafor was reportedly invited to an extended research opportunity on a council ship and never returned. Dr. Kim's laboratory in Seoul was raided by local authorities who claimed they were investigating dangerous, unauthorized research. Elena realized that their time was running out. The council was moving to eliminate the resistance before it could grow large enough to threaten their plans. She made a desperate decision that would change everything. "We need to go public," she announced to the remaining members of her network. "If we keep working in secret, they'll pick us off one by one. But if we can present the evidence to the world all at once, they won't be able to silence everyone." Marcus shook his head. "The governments won't believe us. The media won't report. The council has too much influence. Then we bypass them," Elena replied with grim determination. "We broadcast directly to every scientist, every engineer, every researcher on the planet. We share everything we've learned and everything we've built. We give humanity the tools to free itself." What Elena didn't know was that her plan was about to receive unexpected help from within the council itself. Zara of the Kethani had been secretly documenting the ethical violations she witnessed in the council's treatment of humanity. She had collected evidence of the containment protocols, the surveillance programs, and the biological compatibility experiments. The young Kethani faced a choice that would define her species' future. She could remain silent and be complicit in what she increasingly saw as a crime against an innocent civilization, or she could risk everything to help the humans discover the full truth about their situation. Late one night, as the council ships hung silently over Earth's sleeping cities, Zara made her decision. Using her security clearance, she accessed the council's complete files on the Human Containment Project. She copied everything: communications, research data, surveillance, reports, biological samples, strategic plans. Then she did something that no council member had ever done before. She contacted the humans directly. Elena was working alone in her laboratory when her communication system detected an impossible signal, a direct transmission from one of the council ships. Her first instinct was to assume it was a trap, but the mathematical key embedded in the signal made her pause. It was based on prime number sequences that only her network would recognize. The message was simple: "I have everything you need to free your people, but you must be ready to act quickly. They are planning to begin the final phase within days." Elena stared at the message, her heart pounding. Either this was the breakthrough they desperately needed, or it was the most sophisticated trap ever, laid for humanity. But as she looked around her hidden laboratory at the evidence they had gathered, at the faces of her fellow humans who had risked everything for the truth, she knew they had no choice. Humanity's awakening was about to begin, and the council was about to learn that their perfect cage had one fatal flaw. They had built it around the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The data package that Zara transmitted to Elena contained more than anyone had imagined possible. Complete schematics of council technology, detailed biological analyses of every council species, strategic documents outlining the full scope of the containment project, and most shocking of all, the timeline for something called Final Integration Protocol, scheduled to begin in just 72 hours. Elena stared at the files with growing horror. The Final Integration Protocol wasn't just about controlling humanity. The Council planned to use human biological adaptability to create hybrid organisms that could serve as living interfaces between all Council species. Humanity wasn't being prepared for partnership. They were being prepared for absorption. "We have 3 days," she announced to the emergency meeting of resistance leaders that she had called using every secure channel they possessed. The hidden laboratory was packed with scientists, engineers, and military personnel who had responded to her urgent summons. 3 days to expose the truth, and give humanity the tools to fight back. General Morrison stepped forward, her face grim. My intelligence networks confirm unusual activity around all Council installations. They're positioning for some kind of major operation. Whatever they're planning, it's big. Dr. Chen was already working at multiple computer terminals, his fingers flying over keyboards as he analyzed the Council technology schematics that Zara had provided. "This is incredible," he muttered. "Their entire technological base is built on principles that humans discovered independently. They've just had more time to develop them." Elena felt a surge of hope mixed with rage. How long would it take us to build our own versions of their key technologies? With what we learned from reverse engineering, and now with these complete schematics? Chen paused in his calculations. If we had the resources and could work openly, maybe 6 months for basic faster-than-light travel, a year for the advanced stuff. "We don't have a year," General Morrison said flatly. "We don't have 6 months. We have 3 days." "Then we don't build everything," Elena realized, her mind racing. "We build the one thing that matters most. We build something that proves to the world that we don't need the Council anymore." What happened next would later be called the 72-hour miracle. Elena's call for help went out through every possible channel. Encrypted emails to scientific institutions, coded messages through social media, even old-fashioned phone calls to researchers around the world. The message was simple: humanity needs you, now. The response was overwhelming. Scientists abandoned their official projects to work on the resistance effort. Engineers used their access to manufacturing facilities to produce components. Military personnel provided security and logistics support. Even ordinary citizens contributed, offering their homes as safe houses and their businesses as cover for activities. In secret facilities around the world, humanity began to build its future. Dr. Tanaka's team in Tokyo worked on quantum processors using the corrected Council mathematics. Professor Wright's group in London developed new materials science based on alien metallurgy principles. Dr. Petrov's Moscow laboratory pushed the boundaries of energy generation using the principles the Council had stolen from him years earlier. But the most important work was happening in Elena's hidden laboratory in Mexico City. Using Zara's data and their own discoveries, Elena and Marcus began building something that the Council had never imagined possible. A human, faster-than-light drive that surpassed anything in the alien arsenal. The key is understanding that space isn't really being folded, Marcus explained as he worked on the drive's quantum core. Space is being convinced that two distant points are actually the same point. It's not physics, it's psychology applied to the universe itself. The concept was so fundamentally human that Elena wondered if that's why the Council had been so afraid of them. Humans didn't just study the universe, they argued with it, convinced it to behave differently, forced it to accept new rules. It was the same stubborn determination that had taken them from caves to the stars in just a few thousand years. Meanwhile, the Council was beginning to realize that something was seriously wrong. Their surveillance networks detected massive increases in communication between human research facilities. Energy readings showed unauthorized experiments happening on a global scale. Most disturbing, several of their monitoring stations had gone completely silent. High Chancellor Vextar stood on his flagship's bridge, watching Earth through sensors that showed the electromagnetic chaos of human activity. His certainty was cracking. The planet below was buzzing with energy patterns that defied everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. "Sir," reported Subcommander Krell, her tentacles quivering with nervousness, "we're detecting faster-than-light particle experiments in 17 different locations. That should be impossible with the technology we've given them." Vextar's black eyes narrowed. "They must have salvaged components from our damaged equipment. It doesn't matter. Begin final integration protocol immediately. We can't afford to wait any longer." But it was already too late. Elena stood in the center of her laboratory, surrounded by the most advanced piece of technology humanity had ever created. The faster-than-light drive hummed with contained energy, its quantum core visible through transparent aluminum walls that bent light in impossible patterns. Every surface was covered with equations written in multiple human languages, representing the combined knowledge of thousands of Earth's brightest minds. "Are you sure about this?" asked Marcus, his hand hovering over the activation controls. "If this works, there's no going back. The Council will know that we've surpassed them." Elena thought about the Council's plans for her species, about the billions of humans who still believed their alien visitors were benevolent mentors. She thought about the children who would grow up as biological interfaces for alien civilizations if they failed. She thought about the future that humanity deserved, not as subjects or resources, but as equals among the stars. "Do it," she said. Drive activated with a sound like reality tearing. For a moment, the laboratory existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Elena felt herself standing in Mexico City and orbiting Alpha Centauri and floating in the void between galaxies all at the same time. Then the quantum field stabilized and the sensation faded. But the readings on their instruments were unmistakable. They had achieved faster than light travel that was not only successful, but 10 times more efficient than anything the Council possessed. "Broadcast everything," Elena ordered. "Send the schematics, the test results, the proof that we did this ourselves. Send it to every human on the planet." Within minutes, the data was spreading across Earth's communication networks. Scientists around the world received detailed instructions for building their own FTL drives. The mathematical proofs were so elegant, and the results so dramatic that even skeptics had to admit that humanity had achieved something remarkable. General Morrison's military contacts received something even more important: tactical analyses, showing that human-built FTL drives could outmaneuver any Council vessel. For the first time in 5 years, Earth had a technological advantage over their alien visitors. The reaction from the Council fleet was immediate and panicked. Alarms blared across every ship as sensors detected the impossible energy signature from Elena's laboratory. Then the readings multiplied as similar signatures appeared in Tokyo, London, Moscow, and dozens of other locations. "This is impossible," Vextar breathed, staring at displays that showed human faster-than-light drives coming online across the planet. They were contained. They were controlled. How did they advance so quickly? The answer came from an unexpected source. Zara of the Kethani stepped onto the bridge, her usually calm demeanor replaced by something that humans would have recognized as fierce determination. "They advanced quickly," she said, "because you underestimated them. Because you thought that controlling their technology would control their minds. Because you forgot that humans are the species that looked at an impossible universe and decided to make it possible anyway." Vextar turned to her in shock. You gave them the information." "I gave them the truth," Zara replied. "Something the Council seems to have forgotten how to do." Around the bridge, other Kethani officers stepped forward to stand beside Zara. Their message was clear. They were choosing humanity over the Council that had deceived everyone, including them. The rebellion had begun, and it wasn't just humans who were ready to fight for freedom. Elena watched through her laboratory's new quantum sensors as Council ships across Earth's orbit suddenly found themselves surrounded by vessels that moved like nothing they had ever seen. Humanity had been caged for 5 years, but the cage was broken now. And the Council was about to learn what happened when you tried to contain the most dangerous, most determined, most stubborn species in the galaxy. The war for humanity's future was about to begin, but it would be unlike any war the universe had ever seen. 6 months after the Great Awakening, High Chancellor Vextar sat alone in his personal chambers, staring out at empty space. His flagship drifted powerless near the edge of what had once been Council territory, its energy cells depleted and its quantum drives failing. The grand fleet that had once ruled 12 star systems was now scattered to the cosmic winds, and Vextar found himself contemplating the magnitude of his miscalculation. The war he had expected never came. Instead, something far worse had happened. Humanity had simply made the Council irrelevant. Within days of Elena's breakthrough, human faster-than-light drives had appeared throughout Earth's solar system. But these weren't military vessels built for conquest. They were exploration ships, research platforms, and most terrifyingly for the Council, trading vessels offering technologies and opportunities that made Council resources look primitive. Elena stood on the bridge of the Earthship Breakthrough, humanity's first interstellar exploration vessel. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, she could see the thriving human colony that now orbited Kepler 442b, a world that the Council had claimed was impossible for any species to successfully colonize. The atmospheric processors are running ahead of schedule, reported Marcus Chen from the engineering station. His hair had gone gray during the frantic months of building humanity's space fleet, but his eyes sparkled with the joy of someone whose wildest dreams had become reality. We'll have a breathable atmosphere in the domed cities within 3 months. Elena nodded, reviewing reports from the dozen other colony ships that were establishing human settlements across what had once been exclusively Council space. Each colony was a testament to human ingenuity, not just surviving in hostile environments but thriving in them, transforming them, making them into something better than they had been before. "Any word from the diplomatic mission to the Hectari homeworld?" she asked. "They've accepted our offer," Marcus replied with a grin. "Full technology transfer, including medical advances that will extend their lifespan by 30%. In exchange, they're withdrawing from the Council and establishing independent trade relations with Earth." It was the same pattern everywhere humans went. The Council's former allies found themselves faced with an impossible choice: accept human partnership that offered genuine advancement and mutual benefit, or remain loyal to a Council that had built its power on limiting everyone's potential. Most chose humanity. The Hectari had been first, drawn by human medical technology that far surpassed anything the Council had developed. The Silicans followed, fascinated by human computer science that treated artificial intelligence as partnership rather than slavery. The peaceful Etherians established cultural exchange programs with human artists who showed them new ways to paint with light. Even the ancient Valdorians, who had been Council members for over 1,000 years, began sending secret delegations to human worlds. They offered their crystalline cities as research facilities in exchange for human insights into quantum mechanics that made their own physics look like children's toys. Sara of the Kethani had become humanity's first official alien ambassador. Working from a beautiful embassy on Earth's moon, she often found herself mediating between human colonies and alien civilizations who wanted to establish relationships with the remarkable species that had transformed the galaxy in mere months. "The humans have a saying," she explained to a gathering of former Council species leaders. "They call it thinking outside the box. The Council's mistake was believing that we could keep them inside any box at all." Dr. Elena Vasquez had become something she had never expected, not just a scientist, but a symbol of human potential. Universities across a dozen worlds invited her to speak about the breakthrough that had changed everything. Her hidden laboratory in Mexico City was now a museum, preserved exactly as it had been on the day humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. But Elena's greatest pride wasn't in the technology they had developed. It was in what humanity had chosen to do with their newfound freedom. They could have built a military fleet and conquered the Council worlds. They could have sought revenge for 5 years of deception and manipulation. Instead, they had chosen something much more human. They had chosen to explore, to discover, to share, and to build something better than what had existed before. "We're receiving a transmission from the edge of our territory," announced Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. "It's Chancellor Vextar. He's requesting permission to speak with you personally." Elena considered the request. The Zephyrian leader had become a symbol of the old order's failure, desperately trying to hold together a council that was hemorrhaging members daily. His once mighty fleet was now reduced to a handful of ships whose crews were defecting to human colonies faster than he could replace them. Put him through, she decided. The image that appeared on the main screen was shocking. Vextar looked ancient, his pale blue skin now almost gray, his black eyes sunken with exhaustion and defeat. The proud leader who had orchestrated humanity's containment was now a broken figure. "Dr. Vasquez," he said, his voice hoarse with fatigue. I request safe passage through your territory. My remaining ships need supplies and medical assistance. Elena studied the alien who had tried to cage her entire species. She felt no anger, no desire for revenge. Instead, she felt something that surprised her. Pity. Of course, she replied. You can dock at New Geneva Station. Our medical teams will help anyone who needs treatment regardless of species. Vextar's eyes widened in shock. You would help us? After everything the Council did to your people? Yes, Elena said simply. Because that's what humans do. We help people who need help even if they've made mistakes. The transmission ended, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts. Through the viewport, she could see human ships departing for new worlds, carrying explorers and scientists and dreamers who would plant seeds of human civilization among the stars. Some carried alien partners who had chosen to join humanity's great adventure, rather than cling to the failing council system. Year later, High Chancellor Vexitar sat in a small apartment on New Geneva Station, writing his memoirs. The council had officially dissolved 6 months earlier, when the last 3 member species voted to establish independent relationships with human colonies. The Great Confederation that had ruled space for millennia was now nothing more than a historical footnote. But Vextar had discovered something unexpected in his exile among humans. They had offered him a job, not as a leader or a strategist, but as a historian. They wanted him to document the Council's rise and fall, to preserve the lessons learned from its failures. The humans are not conquerors, he wrote in his daily journal. They are gardeners. They plant seeds of possibility wherever they go, and nurture them until they bloom into something beautiful. The Council tried to trim humanity back, to keep them small and manageable. We forgot that gardeners know how to grow things that are bigger and stronger than anyone imagined possible. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now director of the Interstellar Research Institute, often visited New Geneva Station during her travels. She would stop by Vexitar's apartment, not as a conqueror visiting a defeated enemy, but as a scientist interested in learning from the past. Do you regret it? She asked during one such visit, as they sat in his small living room drinking tea and watching human and alien children play together in the station's central park. Vextar considered the question carefully. I regret the deception. I regret the fear that drove our decisions, but in a strange way I don't regret the outcome. The Council needed to end. We had become stagnant, afraid of change, afraid of anything that might challenge our comfortable certainties. Elena nodded, understanding. Change is scary, but it's also necessary. Your species has taught the galaxy that, Vextar replied. Not through conquest or force, but through example. You showed us what was possible when people are free to reach their full potential. Outside the viewport, new ships were arriving. At the station, human vessels returning from exploration missions, alien traders bringing goods from distant worlds, research ships crewed by mixed teams of humans and aliens working together to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Humanity had won the greatest victory possible. They hadn't just defeated their enemies. They had made those enemies irrelevant. They had built something so much better than what existed before that the old ways simply couldn't compete. The Council had deceived humanity, believing they could contain the most dangerous, determined, and creative species in the galaxy. They had learned too late that humans couldn't be caged because they refused to accept that cages were permanent. They broke out not through violence, but through the simple revolutionary act of becoming too magnificent to be contained. Elena finished her tea and prepared to return to her ship. There were new worlds to explore, new species to meet, new possibilities to discover. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was finally free to find them all. Behind her, Vextar returned to his writing, documenting the fall of an empire that had forgotten the most important truth in the galaxy. Never underestimate a species that looks at the impossible and calls it Tuesday. The stars belonged to everyone now, and they were more beautiful for it.